Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Gentleman's Success, Happiness, and Fulfillment Talk podcast. As always, I have an incredible guest today that I'm very excited to talk to, learn from, and get to connect with. And before I introduce him to you, though, I just want to give a big shout out to all of you who have been leaving comments, likes, reviews on all the major podcasting platforms, Apple, Google, Spotify, and to those who have been watching on YouTube as well. Thank you very much. And I want to ask you for a favor today. I want to ask you that if you get some value out of this interview, if you get some type of information, the inspiration to go out and take action, I want to ask you to please share this interview with one friend, since this is how we are able to grow. This is how we are able to share our message and motivate, inspire, and bless other people to change their life. So today I have Brant Pinvidic. Is that how you pronounce your name, man?
Pretty close, Pinvidic.
All right, yeah, Pinvidic. Cool.
And
he has over 20 years of experience in producing, creating, and directing TV shows and movies. And Brant has developed some of the most advanced pitch and presentation techniques that he now teaches to people from all walks of life. And he started in humble beginnings in Canada, worked his way through the ranks of Hollywood, earning his reputation as one of the industry's most effective and dynamic creative sales executives. And Brant has taken the life, business, and storytelling lessons that he developed during his Hollywood career and used them to uniquely bridge the entertainment industry and business to now help Fortune 100 CEOs and businesses with a 3-minute rule, which is his message. And he basically teaches entrepreneurs, and he teaches people how to say less and get more. So Brant, thank you very much for being here and making some time for this, man. I really appreciate you, and you are welcome, man.
Awesome. Fantastic. Excited to be here.
Awesome, man. So the first thing that I do with my guest is I tell them to walk us through their entrepreneurial journey in 75 seconds or less. Say more, get less. I mean, no. Say less, get more. Yeah.
There you go. That's better. I started out in Canada. I was a failed entrepreneur, multiple entrepreneur. Canada's just not a very entrepreneurial sort of accepting place. All the business ideas I tried, I just couldn't seem to get off the ground well. When I went to the United States with an idea, it ended up taking off, and I moved to the United States 20 years ago into Los Angeles. And then as an entrepreneur, everything worked. And so I was still the same person, but my surroundings and my people were different. And the idea of potential and the acceptance of the things I could create and what I wanted to do was different. And that launched me into several, large, successful endeavors. And I think that, part of my journey has been finding the right place for me. And I honed my skills in an inhospitable environment. And then when I got into something that was more accepting, it was like, I flourished.
Nice. So environment is extremely important. Environment, right?
Yeah.
Like who you surround yourself with, what you put in, everything. Like, yeah. So yeah. Can you maybe, I don't know, give a little bit more insight into that?
So, it's interesting. I write for Forbes, and I wrote an article about sometimes no is the best answer. And, there's a lot of entrepreneurial training right now, and a lot of TikTok and Instagram and all this stuff being like, never take no for an answer, and you got to believe in yourself and push past everything. Right. And I think that's just traditionally, that's just horrifically bad advice. Because sometimes there's a difference between situational doubt and personal doubt, right? And those are very different things. And situational doubt is actually good for you because you're actually weighing the pros and the cons and deciding that is this a good idea or not, right? Personal doubt is something where that little voice inside of you says you're not good enough and that this will never work. And that's the voice you need to quiet, right? Intellectual doubt is the one you want to quiet. The situational doubt is the one you want to listen to. And the problem for most people is they keep hearing, don't listen to the word no. And so you end up disregarding all doubt and just like going face first into this entrepreneurial venture and, with very little chance of success. And so the difference when you're not in a right place and you're not in the right environment and not surrounded by the right people, you won't trust the people that tell you this is, you go a different direction. This isn't the way it works. And what I found where I, thrived in Los Angeles is if I had an idea for a show or a business and I couldn't get it through the first stages, I actually believed that it probably wasn't going to work. Whereas in Canada, I had no idea because it was just such a pessimistic, oh, you never want to do that, that's never going to work kind of attitude. I was like, I never knew really what was a good idea or not. I just knew everybody gave it shit on everything. So when you have the right people around you and surrounding you, it allows you to discern what's real doubt and what's personal doubt. And I always, when I'm on stage, I'll talk about, how many places in your city do you know that there's been a restaurant that's changed hands 7 times in the last 10 years, right? Like it's the same location, always a different restaurant, never works out. And it's because people in the restaurant industry get so passionate about their idea that they don't really look at the metrics in the same way. And it's like, if you would look at that location, you're like, this location isn't a good idea, even with your great restaurant idea, right? Like, and restaurateurs will end up running the business into the ground and going bankrupt, which is a strange reality, right? A lot of businesses will do that. And that's because they hear people like Lady Gaga accepting an Academy Award saying, people told me no, and I did it anyways. You got to believe in yourself and never let anybody say to stop you. And I'm like, are you kidding? Like, you're one of the greatest singers of all time and you struggled to get through. Like, how do you think someone who is nowhere near as skilled is going to do that? And you want them to just believe in themselves and just keep pushing past? That's a bad advice when you're talking about entrepreneurial and life in general. You need balance.
Yeah. So I like that, man. So can you help me get a little bit more clear into like the difference between situational doubt and personal doubt, and which one is the one that you should listen to and which one is the one that you should not listen to?
Situational doubt is what you want to be able to listen to. That is the analytic side of the situation. Here's what the investment costs. Here's the potential risk. Here's the potential return. If you are like, that's a little too risky for me, or, like, those are situational doubts, and those are valid. And you look at a situation in an entrepreneurial venture and you're like, can I get this into the end zone? And again, when I'm coaching or teaching, I talk about this a lot. Like, do you know how easy it is to get ideas to the 1 yard line? Like, it's so easy. You run them down the field, you can get them in and almost score a goal. It's so close. You can just about get it into the end zone for a touchdown. It's like, those are worth nothing. You're playing soccer and you miss the net. That doesn't count for anything. Doesn't matter how brilliantly you move the ball up the pitch. It makes no difference. If the ball doesn't go in the net, it's worth 0. If you don't get into the end zone, it's worth 0. And situational doubt is the natural process of like, should I cut bait? Is this the right idea? Am I taking too big of a risk? Should I hold back? Those things you need to listen to as an entrepreneur, right? Mm-hmm. Personal doubt is the imposter syndrome that tells you you're not good enough, that nobody likes you, that you're never going to make it, that it's too hard, that everybody else is smarter than you, that all the people that are doing it have something special that you don't. Like, that's the doubt you want to get rid of. And the problem is most of us confuse those two things, right? There's a whole group of people that listen to both those doubts and never move.
Yeah.
Right. But the problem is there's a lot of people that don't listen to either of those doubts. And they run themselves into failure over and over again. And they're not Elon Musk, who ends up, after 6 times failing, ends up being a huge success, or Steve Jobs. Like, you can't look at someone's highlight reel look at that as a treasure map for you. It doesn't work like that, right? Like, you need what I call reasonable probability of success. And it's like, that's a hard thing to really accept when you have a good idea. I have good ideas come across my desk every day. And I want to get involved in lots of them, but it's like, yeah, it's not going to work, like, that's the problem. It's like, it's too unlikely for it to succeed. And too many things would have to go. It takes a village. It takes a miracle to be hyper successful in today's world. You can't start with the deck stack against you. It just doesn't work like that.
Okay. And it has a lot to do with environment. So like you were saying to us right now, you started in Canada, and in Canada, you didn't have near the success that you had in the US because of the environment and the mindsets of people there, right? So for example, if you have a water bottle and you're in a city, right, in New York City, offering water bottles, you're probably not going to make so many sales. But if you are in the middle of the desert and there's a marathon going on, and you offer water bottles, people are going to like come running because they want a water bottle. So it's all about like environments, right, and putting yourself in a place in which your value can be valued, right?
Yeah.
So Yeah. And I mean, and man, and that's really easy to do, I believe, like in the time that we're living, with the internet, because you could literally target anyone using Facebook, right? Like you can
Yeah.
find your ideal clients. So it's pretty easy to like be able to position yourself around people who are going to value whatever it is that you have. And I think that the main problem for most entrepreneurs right now is personal doubt, right?
Yes.
So do you have any
Yeah.
advice on how to get rid of that?
Well, I think that you need to break things up into small successes, right? Like that's a very hard thing to tell somebody, like believe in yourself and just do it anyways, right? Like, but what helps a lot of times is the pre-work. I find more than anything in today's environment, and the generation today wants the shortcut, right? Like that's how I grew up. I was always looking for the shortcut. I had incredible skill as a teenager, verbally, mentally. I could do amazing things for my age, but that held me back because I wouldn't do the work, because I could scrape by on half the work. I could get the same result as everybody else doing twice the work, right? And I was doing half the work. And so I was okay with that. And the problem was, as they got older, as they got more refined, my skills didn't. And so next thing you know, like now I don't have the skills to work at that level, and
Yeah.
yet I'm not getting results. And looking for the shortcut will always be a longer way around. That is a fact. And a perfect example is, I mean, everybody wants to ask me how to write a book. I get a request every day for book training and how to write a book. And the problem is that writing a book is glamorous and cool and fun and all those things when you have written it. It's not to go do the work to get it written. And the problem is, to get a book written, you have to do what's called a book proposal. And a book proposal is a pain in the ass. It's long and it's like tedious. It doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. And in your brain, you're like, I already know what this book is. Why do I have to write all these things and answer all these questions and do these comparative studies with other books and whatnot, right? And people don't understand, it's like, it is not about your ability to do a book proposal. It's about your willingness to commit to the process enough that you produce the book proposal that tells the world you will write a book. And then a publisher will be like, this person will actually write a book. And it's the same thing as Navy SEAL training. They don't do Navy SEAL training to learn different elements, to teach people stuff. That's not what they do it for. They do it to weed out the people who say they want to be a Navy SEAL and those who are willing to go through the process to be one. And an entrepreneur is the same thing. You want to be an entrepreneur? So what? Everybody does. Are you willing to do the work? And if you are struggling with personal confidence and the ability to get out there and all those things, the work and the success at the work and the planning and the business plan will give you the confidence you need, because it will show people that you are serious, and they take people like that at a higher level. And I can't tell you how many businesses come to me and want to hire me and they don't have a business plan. And they're a startup that just has a great idea. And it's like, that's great. You have a great idea, but you have no roadmap, and you put all your effort into making a beautiful graphic deck and no effort on the roadmap to get there. And that's why when I see a high level Silicon Valley startup come across my desk, I know it instantly, because those people are trained to do the work before they put it in front of you, and those people raise money, and they raise a lot of money. People listening, how many times have you heard of a startup that raised, $15 million or whatever, and you're looking at the idea and you're like, this isn't even a good idea. Like, this is silly. And it's like, yeah, but
They did the work.
They did the work to set it up. And so investors go, you know what? This may or may not work, but I believe that I will get a chance to find out. Whereas most people, they put something in front of me, it's like, it might be a good idea. I don't even know if you'll actually get it to the point where I find out if it's a good idea or not.
Yeah, man. So when like businesses are trying to like raise money, the main risk for the investors is not the business, but the businessmen, right? And most businessmen are not willing to put in the work. And one of the
Right.
things that I've been able to understand, that I'm very glad that I've been able to understand, that like entrepreneurship and success and the money, like yeah, like I have big lofty goals, but those are not as important for me now. Like what I'm excited about is who I will become in the process of getting to that goal, right? Of putting in the work. So I used to like be really frustrated and overwhelmed because I wasn't where I thought I was supposed to be, right? Because I wanted the result so bad. But now like I'm in love with the process. I mean, I'm in love with putting the work, and it's so much like I have a lighter feeling, and I feel in flow, and I feel happier, and now that I actually have this awareness that what's really important is the process and who you will become during the process, and by putting in the work, now I'm embracing that, and results are coming much faster, right?
Yeah.
And, I recently learned this cool thing. It's called the awe factor. Like AWE, like like when someone
Yeah. Oh,
amazes,
yeah.
when something amazes you. The A is for ability, your ability to do something. And you were alluding to this earlier. A stands for ability. Your ability, you had, as when you were young, you had a lot of ability to do lots of different things. And then WE is for work ethic, right? So when you can have a lot of ability, an ability of 10, but if your work ethic is 5, you get a result of 50. And if someone has the ability of 5, but they have a work ethic of 10, the result will be a 50. But with work ethic of 10, as they put in the work and as they put in the reps, their ability will increase. So eventually they'll have a work ethic of 10, and they'll have an ability of 10, and they'll be getting exponential results when the other person will stay stuck or will even go down.
Yeah.
So now this takes me, now that we're talking about like raising money and stuff, this takes me to what you really are all about, which is saying less and getting more, right? Which with your 3-minute rule and all of that. So can you bring me in on what you got going on with that, man?
So the 3-minute rule basically states that everything about your business, product, or service must be conveyed clearly, concisely, and accurately in 3 minutes or less. In those first 3 minutes, you have to be able to convey value, you be able to capture and maintain your audience's attention, and you have to be able to answer key questions before they ask them. And if you don't get people's buy-in in those first 3 minutes, the odds of you doing so after plummet astronomically. And so what I do is I train high-level sort of corporate executives on how to take their businesses or their products or their services or their core message and simplify it into a structure like a Hollywood storyteller would do for a movie, and lay it out in bits and pieces and information that leads you from one idea to the other. And what that does is it takes your audience through the process naturally. And so they start to understand the idea on a deeper level, and then they can make a decision, am I interested or not? In today's world, you can't sell anybody anything. Nobody's interested in being sold. All they want is the information. What are you offering? Tell me how it works. Tell me what the details are. I'll make a decision. And anybody who tries to push or sell is repelled. And so it's been an interesting journey for me because, I learned that in the trenches at Hollywood, making TV and movies. And I was just shocked how well those skills translated into other parts of business, and being able to simplify your message is very, very powerful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Simplifying and clearly articulating a message. So
Yeah.
you work with, high level CEOs and like high level companies and stuff. Do you have your book, right? Anyone can get access to your book.
Yeah.
So where can we get that?
So you can get it on Amazon or anywhere books are sold. You can also go to 3minuterule.com and get an autographed copy. And it'll give you the steps. I'll give you an example. Like every pitch and presentation you make should be in the structures of the WHAC method, WHAC. And that is basically, W is what is it? H is how does it work? A is are you sure? And C is can you do it? And the what is it is, literally, what is it? You need to just state what it is you're offering or selling or doing. What is your business do right out of the gate? That is the first thing people want to know. I am a personal trainer that specializes in training actors for major movie roles. Okay. Like if you didn't hear anything else, you'd have a pretty good idea what that guy does for a living and all the details, right? You could actually fill in some of the gaps, right? That's what is it? And that's one of the ones people have the hardest, because they want to talk about all crazy weird stuff and talk about the size of the market. No, what is it in the simplest form? Okay, here's what I do. Here's what it is. And the H is how does it work? How does it work, right? Those are the two things people want to know. Could you just tell me what this is and how this works, right? So then after I explain what it is, I would tell you how it works. I move into the actor's house for 30 days and I never leave their side, make sure they eat, drink, and exercise in the exact right program. Oh, okay. There's basically, I've told you 2 sentences, and anybody listening could literally build a website, could pitch the idea to anybody else on what my personal trainer friend is. Like, almost everything there is. Now, if you're not a celebrity, you're not in a movie, do you need to hear more? You're like, yeah, I don't really do that. If he was selling you the course that he used for Chris Hemsworth, you might want to listen more. Like, you know, so much just in those two things. That's what people want. They are desperate for simplicity. Okay. Then you go to the A. Are you sure? Which means, can you validate any of this? Like, have you done this before? Does this actually work? Like, what are the facts, the figures, the logic, and the reason? I trained Chris Hemsworth for Thor. I trained Vin Diesel for Fast and Furious. I designed Mark Wahlberg's workout plan. Okay, like 3 examples. Does he need to tell you a lot more?
No, I'm sure.
Like, really? Like, you've already kind of got it, right? So would it make sense to build a whole speech and a whole thing? No. And it's like, and then you go to the C. Can you do it? Can you do it is, what does it cost? Is it available? Is it on back order? Blah, 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 right? So he would say, like, I need 90 days lead up time. I'm building up 90 days, and the studios pay me directly, so it's no cost to you as an actor. I don't do personal training on one-on-ones, but I do have a course that you can buy and use it on your own at your house. That's like, okay. Like, does he have to tell you how big the workout industry is, the weight loss industry? No. Does he have to tell you how many calories you can eat? And then, like, no. Like, you already are there. Now, from that moment on, you might want to talk further. You might want to ask questions. You might want to engage. This is now, that first, the WAC method is what's called the information segment of a pitch. Let me get you the valuable information in an order that your brain naturally processes, so you can make a decision if this interests you or not. Once I've done that, I then move to the engagement phase, which is, now that you understand what I do, let's talk engagement. And it's like, now you're like, well, this role needs me to put on 50 pounds of muscle. This role needs me to lean out. Can you do that? Like, now we're going to talk about stuff. I design programs customized to your thing. We actually got to go draw blood because I got to know what blood, like all of those things that have no relevance yet, now all of a sudden make a lot of relevance, right? The custom meal is scientifically done. We count calories. I bring the gym to you. Like, all of the things, they all matter only after you understand the basic premise, right? Notice he doesn't say he went to Harvard. Can he see all, none of that stuff? Well, what does he need to? No, right? What does he do? He's a personal trainer. He trains actors for big movie roles. Duh. He moves into your house effectively and stays with you 24 hours a day until you roll. So you can't cheat. You can't slip up, right? It's like, I've trained some of the biggest actors in the world for the biggest roles in their lives. Here's some pictures. Duh. Okay. Your role is going to be within 90 days. I can't help you. If it's after 90 days, I can book you in. Don't worry. The movie studio will pay for the whole thing.
Pretty simple,
you know,
and that takes 3 minutes. Simple.
Yeah. And it's like, now it's time to chat. Now we can go on for another 30 minutes, another hour and a half. If you want to have a two-hour meeting with somebody, the first 3 minutes is going to help you do that.
That's amazing, man. So, and why is, like, if it goes past the 3 minutes, why does it not work right now?
Because the problem is that, you know, anybody in your audience knows, when someone comes to pitch or present you something, your mind starts to form a yes or no immediately. Like, not even 3 minutes, in 30 seconds, in 10 seconds, you start to go like, I'm not interested. I don't like this guy, whatever, right? 3 minutes is actually the most you can get. If you tell a perfect story, you might be able to get the person to hold off on thinking yes or no till the end, till about 3 minutes. That is the core of the attention span of a human being, to form what's called a rationalization story. If you at home are listening, think to yourself, why do you live in the city you live in? Why did you buy the car you bought? Listen to the way you explain it in your mind. No fancy adjectives, no giant superlative statements. It's simple. I blank blank. I like this. I grew up. Like, it's all simple statements. That's called the rationalization story. If you ever cheat on your girlfriend or your boyfriend, like, why did you do that? You have a rationalization story. It doesn't matter. Every decision a human being makes comes down to rationalization. It's one of the skills that only humans possess. We don't make decisions by instinct. We make decisions by rationale. How do we rationalize it, right? So if I buy something, if I do something, if I commit to something, I rationalize it. And I start to form that narrative in my mind in less than 3 minutes. And maybe you can undo that for somebody with a longer pitch and they think no to themselves, and maybe you can overcome that. Sure. But that is not a position of strength.
Yeah. So man, I'm curious. So what do you think about my, pitch/story before hitting record and getting this started?
It's great. It's just too long.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like, because you have such a great sort of end reveal, you have to keep people leading to that. And it just takes too long to get there, right? It's what we call in the business, it's a long walk for a little giggle, right? Like it's a long lead up for an emotional moment in your life that was like that wanted a better build up. You wanted to build to that, right? And so, which is the way most people do things, because all of those elements that you told me in your story were super important to you, right? Because you live them,
Yeah.
you know them. None of them were important to me until you talked about your daughter. Now it's like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I'm starting to see some importance here. Now I see some relevance. And then most of the beginning element was just sort of mushed together, right? It's all mush until it starts to actually form a crux of it, right? Of the story itself. And so what I train people to do is how to lead into that story like the way we would tell it in a Hollywood movie. I mean, think about it. You watch Titanic, it's a 3-hour movie about a boat that sinks. Like, how does that work?
Yeah.
Because the storytelling is the way it works, right? That's the way. You could watch The Shawshank Redemption 50 times. You still know he escapes. Spoiler alert for anybody who hasn't seen it, but it doesn't matter because the story's good, right?
Okay. So there's some work that I could do using the WAC method. Using the WAC
Yeah,
framework. Awesome.
absolutely. Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. And so you have a course, right?
Um, I don't really have a course. I do a little bit. I've been semi-retired for like 4 years. So I kind of don't take on new clients. I help people for free, basically. Like, how people say I do it to help people. Like, if you do it to help people and still charge, you're not doing it to help people. You're doing it for yourself. Like, that's the way life is, right? Um, I just find that I like to put out the information as much as I can. I don't do a lot of new client work right now. I will have a course at some point. It's just been slow to get to it because I just not interested in being one of those guys where it's like, hey, buy my course. Like, I don't need the money right now, and I want to help as many people as I can. So usually when people reach out, I give them whatever advice I can, and as long as they tell me I'm pretty, I'm happy.
Okay. Yeah. I like that. So you're pretty, man. You're very pretty.
See, that's why I'm doing your show, right?
Yeah. All right, man. So you're a speaker, right? And apart from
Yeah.
speaking on how to crack the attention spans of people and how to be able to like make your pitch in 3 minutes, you also like speak around other stuff, right? And one of my favorites of those topics that you speak is about like peak performance. Like I'm all about being a high performer and performing at the highest level. So yeah, can you talk a little bit about that, man? Sorry for the interruption. If you're an aspiring, established coach, course creator, author, and speaker, I want to extend an invitation to check out my free training on the podcast Cloak Track Framework by clicking on the link in the description of this podcast. On this training, you're going to learn how combining podcasting with a rare concept that very few people know about called the Cloak Track can help you build a multi-million-dollar network of successful people who can become your clients, put you in front of hundreds of your ideal clients with your message, coaching, courses, and books, help you become a best-selling author, get you booked to speak on stages, or even making an extra $237,600 in the next 6 months. Click on the link of the description of this podcast to learn about the 4 simple steps to make this work. Step number 1 is alignment. Aligning who you're trying to be, what you're trying to do, your goals and purpose with building your podcast so that podcasting is a vehicle that helps you achieve your goals. Step number 2 is leveraging the Cloak Track to find an unlimited supply of your ideal podcast guest. Step number 3 is leveraging the Cloak Track to close an interview with anyone, no matter how rich, famous, or out of your league they may seem. And step number 4 is the content machine, which is the key to tapping into other people's audiences. These are the 4 steps to making the podcast Cloak Track Framework work, and I'm not going to hold anything back on this training. So click on the link in the description of this podcast, go and check it out. And once you've done that, if you feel like this would help, we also have a complimentary, free, absolutely free alignment call to get you started and show you exactly how to implement everything. Get access to the training right now, and I hope you enjoy the rest of this episode. Bye-bye.
Yeah, it's actually one of my favorite elements now. I do a lot of work in personal development now, just because I love it. And the peak performance training that I do, and I've worked with major athletes and large sports organizations with the Clippers and stuff, working on their performance. And what you find is that high performing people have a very high level threshold of excellent, right? So they do excellence in something amazing. When they're on the court, they're doing amazing. When they're on the pitch, they do amazing. When they're in the office, they do amazing. And what I always say is, like, a sports team, a professional sports team, doesn't show up on practice every week and waddle through it, right? They don't just walk through the motions. They practice almost as hard as they do at the games. And if you think about it, there's no logical reason for that. It's certainly not physical. They're not learning any skills, right? Tom Brady's not getting to be a better quarterback because he's practicing hard on Tuesday, right? So it's like, and in fact, you might actually be better if you rested more. But no team would half-ass it through practice. And the reason is because physiologically, your brain needs to be in peak mode more often to be able to command a high performance, right? If you practice hard, you can play hard. You need to be in game time mode. But the problem is that that's Tuesday at practice and Sunday night at the game, right? Everything in between in most people's lives is terribly average. They aren't peak performance at home. They aren't peak performance on their phone calls with their brothers. They're not peak performance when they're shopping in the grocery store, when they're driving home. Like, they end up in this valley of average. And if you don't think that the way you perform in these areas of life, are the same thing, you're missing the point, right? And so what you need to do is raise your level of excellence across all areas of life, so that physiologically you start to get in the habit of being in excellence mode more often. And so what I do is I train CEOs, executives, and high performers to maintain that feeling of excellence the entire time. And as men really particularly respond well because we're so competitive. And I will do this thing where I have people on stage and I say, I got, this organizer gave me $1,000 to give away. And I literally did this with a professional team in their locker room. Hey, guess what? I got a $10,000 prize. What we're doing is we're going to walk these stairs. There are 10 stairs up to the next level here. You get 10 steps to do the best stair walk that anybody's ever done. Whoever walks these 10 stairs the best wins. And you come home with 10 grand. Okay. Whatever you want to do, you do. But I'm judging whoever walks the best. I'm going to give you 5 minutes to prepare, and then we're going one at a time. Now, it's literally the stupidest contest you could possibly. Walking upstairs, who gives a crap? But people at home are already thinking to themselves, what would they do in that if it was a $10,000 prize, right?
Yeah.
You got 10 steps. What am I going to do? How do I make this thing, right? Now, here's the point. You haven't even competed yet, and it's a competition that is absolutely irrelevant. And then I say, like, we're not actually doing it for $10,000. I just wanted to see. And when I'm on stage, you can literally see the audience. Their chests, because I tell them to close their eyes and picture what you're going to do, because we don't have a lot of time. I need you to be ready, and their chest swells up and they got a smile on their face, right? Because they're thinking about how to perform. And your brain and your body don't know the difference between an actual competition and a competition that you just create out of thin air. It doesn't know the difference. And I'll say to the athletes, if I went to the valet, you're all going to pick up your car from valet outside here in an hour or so. And I said to them, hey, your job is to pick whoever was the best valet customer today and win. And there's a trophy for that. And I went to the 12 guys in the team and I was like, what would you do with your 30-second interaction with that valet to win that prize? Audience at home, if you're going out for dinner, next time you're going to dinner, if there was genuinely a trophy for the best customer in the restaurant that night, what would you do to at least get on the podium that night? How would you get in the top 10? What would you do? Would you smile? Would you have conversation? Would you be bright? Would you be cheery? I'll tell you something. Before you ever talk to the waitress, notice how your demeanor changes. When you think, just think about how you do it, your demeanor changes. And what happens is you need to start doing those little practice ideas and convince yourself to do it throughout the day. 30 seconds here and a minute there. What you'll find is as you do that more often, it stops being something you have to think of. When I walk into a room, I win. If I'm interacting with someone at a desk or in a shop, my brain is already like, how do we win this interaction? How do we, if someone came back at the end of the day, could you give me your top 5 customers for today? I tell you, I would be in the top 5 every place I go. It has to be a very bad day for me to not be in top 5, because my brain's like, let's kick ass, let's win, right? Anything I do, my brain is like, how do we kick gas? How do we make this cool? How do we make this, I will be driving on the 405 in traffic, and I could literally be like, dude, I mean, I'm in Los Angeles in $100,000 car. I could buy 5 of these. No one can. And I'm like, I'm in Los Angeles, in one of the best cities in the world. And it's like, I'm going to be home in 20, like I can make that change right away, because it's like, if there was the prize at the end of it, at the end of the 405, of the misery that I just went through, if there was someone handing prizes for the best ride on the 405 in traffic, I could win that. I'm alone in my car. What would I do for the 40 minutes so that if someone was watching, they'd be like, that guy had the best drive on the 405. This is the worst traffic we've seen in a month. And for the last hour, that's the winner. Just think about it. Think what you would do if there was a prize at the end. You'd smile, you'd turn up the tunes, you'd lean back, you might wave to somebody, you'd let somebody cut in front of you. You know what I mean? You'd get in a group, you think happy thoughts. People watch, they'd be like, yeah, that was the guy. And by the way, is anybody else doing that? No. So then of course I win. That's
won. Amazing, man. Yeah.
Right?
Just by changing your intention.
My goal. Yeah. And the problem is you can't be in that mode all the time, right? Like Tony Robbins is a very good friend of mine, and his techniques are amazing, but it's hard for me because it wasn't just like I snap a finger and I'm just in happy mode. Like, it's really hard to do. I had to build in small chunks, little pieces at a time. I had to train myself to do that, right? I got in a routine of doing them in small moments, little tiny things, and then you start to realize that it's more natural, and then you don't have to force it. It feels forced at the beginning. That's okay. So does everything. Go train any skill. It seems awkward, right? But exactly. You watch videos on YouTube, you learn a few things, you get good at it. Next thing you know, you're amazing at it. And like, wouldn't you want to be amazing at being happy, productive, excited, high performance all the time? Like, you know what? Train a little bit at it. You learn the guitar, your fingers hurt for a little while. Well, guess what? If you do that for a year, you're going to play the guitar. It's a pretty good reward, right? And this is a pretty big reward. I go through 95% of my life in a very good, energetic, happy, joyful mode. And it's allowed me to be a better father, a better husband, a better friend. I run a nonprofit travel adventure club. I do things for people all the time. Why? Because I like to win. I like to win the situation. I do for others, not because I'm some Mother Teresa type that wants to do all this stuff. I do for me because it feels awesome. I want to be the hero. I like winning. And so, yes, I can use that in a benevolent way sometimes, which is good. It offsets my narcissism, right? And it's like, I can make things about me by doing good for people. And I do it because it makes me the hero. And that's what I like. And so I try to be the hero in my day all day.
I love it, man. I'm going to start implementing that insight, that amazing insight that you shared with us right now. After this interview, I'm going to go on a family date. I'm going to go to the movies, and I'm going to go with the intention to see how it would show up in this family date if there was a prize for like a trophy or whatever.
That's right.
For depending on how I showed up with my family.
Yeah, and you'd be like, and you might not even want to. You might not be in the mood for it, but it's like, I guarantee if this was a game show and you were on it, you'd suck it up and you'd be like, let's do it, right? And all you got to do is do that a few times, like push past these sort of like, I'm not in the mood. And I'm telling you, we'll start to be more reactive. And there's one other big piece to this, which has been overwhelmingly rewarding for, some major people in the world today. I've been really lucky to work with some great clients, and I've had real success with this. Is like, I want you to think about the concept of nostalgia. Okay. Concept of nostalgia is very interesting. It's the idea that something in your past was so enjoyable that now you enjoy it before you even do it again. Right. Mm-hmm. If there was a ride at the county fair that you used to love, and 20 years later you're going there, there's a song you used to love as a kid in the 90s or whatever it was. It's like you already know that you love it before you do it again. You're eating a food from childhood, and the fact that it's good or not has no relevance on whether you love it. Okay. And that's why sometimes your friends will be like, why do you like this movie? Why do you like this song? Why do you like this food? Why do you like this place? Why do you like this restaurant, this club, these clothes, whatever it is? And you're like, yeah, I didn't say it was good. I just said I love it, right? That is the power of nostalgia. It's a very interesting phenomenon in our human culture. And what I've realized over the years is that the power of that nostalgia is not something you have to have previously experienced, right? You can get yourself into the mode of, I already love this before ever doing it. You don't have to do it and love it at one point in your life to do it again, right? And I'll
Ooh,
give
that's
you an example.
interesting.
We were just in Nashville. We went to Dollywood. And Dollywood is this, Dolly Parton's Disneyland, basically. And I absolutely hate theme parks. I despise them, but I love Dolly Parton. And and so my kids kind of like thought it'd be fun. And I noticed that before we went there, we had already predetermined that we were going to love it. I had already had the nostalgic feelings for the experience I was going to have there before I ever showed up. And so then from that moment on, instead of taking all of the elements of what happened there that day and then judging them evenly on what I enjoyed, what I didn't, what was cool, what wasn't, and then trying to figure out if I liked it or I was happy, I already determined that I loved it and it was going to be amazing. So my cognizant bias was already on that. My collective brain was already looking for those moments that I liked. And the things that were not good, lineups and all these other things, like didn't have the same element. It would have had to gone horrifically wrong to undo the commitment I already had to love it. And what I've developed is this purpose nostalgia, like creating the feeling in yourself of nostalgia for something before you do it. If you already know you're going to love it and you already know that it's going to be a great experience, you can feel those feelings. And then guess what? You are not judging it by the reality. If you are trying to judge happiness by the reality of your situations, you are going to be disappointed because it is too balanced, too many things. Where did I park? How many things? I don't think this price right. Like it's too much. It's too even, right? If you've already determined that you love going to the movies with the kids, you love this theater, this is going to be an amazing movie, like it has to really go the wrong way for you to undo those feelings, right? You already commit to the fact that I absolutely adore this and this is something that I love to do. You will be stunned how it is a self-fulfilling prophecy so often. It's amazing.
Amazing, man. This makes me think to a quote, which I'm going to try to, tell you about, which is not going to be exactly the same as I heard it, originally heard it. And it goes like, like the life of a person can be altered by his intention of mind, something like that.
Yeah.
Right. But like your reality could be altered. You could literally change your entire reality and how you feel about your life just by your attitude of mind.
Right.
Which is what we're
And
talking
I just
about
said,
right now.
just think about it. Just think about the way you're nostalgic about something in your life that isn't actually really good, that other people that don't like, but because you loved it at one time in your life, and now you've already committed, and you've determined that you love it, right?
So now your mind
And
is going
that's
to
why
be
you
looking
see,
for.
how many times have you gone to a restaurant that has lineups around the block, and you get there and you're like, "What the hell was this? Totally average," and everybody else is like, "Oh my God, it's the best thing ever," right? Because they've already determined and committed to it being the best thing ever. Well, it's pretty hard to undo that, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like, well, why wouldn't you use that philosophy on most things in life? Right.
Exactly. Yeah.
And
Man,
like I've learned
I
that
love
from
this.
flying now. I learned that because the true story is when when you're a major executive, you fly first class everywhere. Well, you get pretty used to that, right? And so when you're paying for things on your own and retired, sometimes a 2-hour flight for $8,000 at first class or a 2-hour flight for $280 in coach, it starts to be a little bit more reasonable, right? So
Yeah.
now it's like, oh, I hate flying. And then I realized over time that it's like, wait. And I've started to realize I now tell myself I love flying. I love being in the plane. I actually love going through security. I love seeing people. I love that stuff, So
and now you're going through that process, you're in a good mood instead
yes.
of hating it.
And
Yeah.
it's like, I know that it sucks. I know that it's awful, right? But for some reason, over the last year and a half that I've been developing this strategy, I have really used it to my advantage because I think I genuinely believe that I love flying now. Because I
Yeah.
tell myself that I love flying. I love being in the airport. You know what I really like? I actually kind of like being in a middle seat, because it's like there's people on either side, and like for some reason I can get my brain in that mode, right? I don't love being in a middle seat. That's where I draw the line. But nevertheless, it is, just the airport process and the traveling. I kind of have got my physiological self to believe that I love traveling, which is weird.
Nice, man. So we're almost out of time, and I always, finish my interviews with 5 questions. So I'm gonna go ahead and ask the first one. And the first one is, what advice would you give your 20-year-old self if you could? Not like redo your life or be regretful of anything. Just give your 20-year-old self some advice. What would that be?
It would be to slow down and do the work, because it'll all work out. It's so easy. Life is so easy if you just do the work and don't rush it. Oh man, that would have made my life so much easier. Holy smokes.
Yeah. Awesome. So the second one, mindset. What is a mindset shift that you've had that you think has contributed to your success?
I think I'm just like, I am in the relentless pursuit of enjoyment. That's what I do every day, all day. I am looking for joy in any situation I can, and I am looking to bring joy to others in any way I can, and be the hero of their story, of my story, of any story.
Nice. Okay. Awesome. I like it. The second question, map. So do you have any tactic, tool, strategy, any piece of advice that you could give someone who's looking for clarity, who's looking to have more clarity in their life around what they want, who they are, where they're going, and just have more clarity?
I think the biggest thing is that you mix up your wants and your needs very quickly. What do I need? What do I want? And people are chasing what they think makes them happy, which is fine. We all need to pursue happiness, but you need to focus on the pursuit side of it, right? Which is like, if you know what will make you happy, make sure you actually use it for that reason. Because I guarantee even people listening now had ideas of where they thought they'd be in life, that would be all they wanted or all they needed, and now they blow past that. They thought if they made this much money, they'd be happy, or they'd be able to do this. And it's like, if you commit to that, which you should, if I could get to $100,000 a year, all my money worries would be over, right? And the problem is they get to that and they get more money issues. Is that if you're going to make a commitment to that and drive and get to there, make sure you enjoy the fruits of those labors. Make sure you focus on that ability. And focusing on the ability to enjoy your success is just as important as focusing on the journey to find success.
Yeah, so amazing, man. Because a lot of people get trapped in this trap of that they will be happy when X, Y, and Z happens, and then when X, Y, and Z happens, there's another X, Y, and Z that they're now chasing, and they never get to be happy.
Right. Yeah, you don't know, if you don't define what success is and experience it, you were never successful. You just blow right past the exit, as they call it.
Yeah. So mindset map, motion. So what is a habit that you have that you think has contributed to your success?
I get up every morning at 4:30.
Nice.
It's just awesome. Like I started it when a writer friend of mine, he was doing that, and he just told me to do it, and I did it, and it's a complete game changer. It's a complete game changer. I get so much done. It's just, from a habit perspective, I don't know anything else that's made that big of a difference. Awesome.
And the last one, mindset map, motion, measure. So what do you think about measuring and tracking?
It's hard because I know it's not good advice, but I don't measure and I don't track. I gave that up a while ago. Because I had already, like I said, I'd already gotten to a place of success where it's like, I wasn't going to spend the money I'd already made. So what the hell am I doing it for? Right. And money particularly needs at some point in your life to stop being a scorecard and needs to start being a token. Right. And that I train a lot. Is it like right now, money is a scorecard. You make a certain amount of money. It scores how well you're doing it. It's the gauge of success. And what people need to start doing at a certain level, and this is not for the 22-year-old entrepreneur who's just getting started. You need to bust your ass and make as much money as you can for the next 10 years. Yes. But at some point, you need to be able to turn that switch to where the money and the time and the energy and the experience you have become tokens. And those tokens can be traded in for joy. And joy applied over time equals happiness. That's all happiness is the amount of joy you have over a certain amount of time. Are you happy today? Well, it depends how much joy you had today. Are you happy in the next hour? Well, it depends how much joy you have in the next hour. You know, you might have the greatest day today, but if you have 364 days in a row of shit, you're not happy, right?
Yeah.
So it's how much joy can you experience over time? And most people make so much money and they track and they measure everything they do, and they never turn those things into token to actually trade them for things that make them feel joy over a certain amount of time.
Cool. Awesome. Mindset map, motion, measure, money, right? If people want money, which is results in every single area of their life, follow those 4 things, which I always ask at the end of every single interview of like 80 plus interviews that I've done till now. So pretty cool. You can literally go to the end of every single interview and have a course on entrepreneurship. So thank you, man. I really enjoyed this episode. Thank you very much for being here and sharing some knowledge and some wisdom. So if people want to know more about you, what you got going on, speaking and all of that you do, where can they find you?
I'm at 3minuterule.com or brantpinvidic.com. Very easy to find me.
Awesome. We'll put all of those links there. And it was a pleasure talking to you, man. And
rock on, dude.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye, man.
See you.